Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Boy by Brent Van Staalduinen. Narrated by James Fouhey. O aching time, O moments big as years. John Keats. Part 1. March. Chapter 1. The unopened envelope in Boy's hands is thin and light. He's not surprised. Lesser schools often pad their acceptance packages with welcome materials and pamphlets, a hopeful last-minute attempt to sway undecided students. The best simply fold their letters twice, slide them into expensive envelopes, mail them to their selected few, and wait for the acceptances to find their inevitable way home. He turns it over a few times, inspecting every edge and seam, his eyes moving between the embossed Royal Military College seal and his laser-engraved name and address on the front. No question about what's inside. One envelope, one offer of ROTP admission, the full ride, as they say, one acceptance form. Good news. Should be, anyhow. Fuck. He draws out the consonants at both ends of the word, soft and hard, trying to savor it. But as soon as it passes between his lips and teeth, it feels wrong, painful, like hot coffee sipped too soon, a scalded aftertaste. He never swears. It's too much like giving in. His voice, along with the whisper of traffic on the Queen Elizabeth Way behind him, drops the short distance to the water and disappears. Feels better, doesn't it? Not really. A half-hearted response to Charlie's question, but not a lie. He won't lie to her. She came back after her death 8 years ago to watch over him. The least he can do for her is find the truth. A measure of it, anyhow. So what now? He doesn't know. His grades have been in a steady decline over the past few months, sinking like a plane that has lost an engine. Soon, RMC will find out, and the letter in his hand will become no more than a broken promise to himself. Lukewarm reality poured into the excitement he should be feeling. It's impossible to savor the tepid. All you can do is spit it out. He lays the envelope on the stone beside him and watches it a few moments, waiting for the wind to carry the bright paper towards the water. If it goes, so does the dream, right? A sign from heaven or wherever. But there's no movement, not even a flutter. How can a single number 10 envelope holding 2 printed pieces of paper contain the best and worst of everything? The letter was waiting for him when he got home from school, sticking out from the mailbox like an obscene gesture. He knew it was coming, knew that the board would have moved his application to the top of the pile for early selection, impressed by the grades he carried at the deadline, the excellent essay he wrote on leadership and dreams, his exemplary volunteer and air cadet service over the past 5 years, and the numerous accolades and recommendations from the officers at the squadron and his teachers at school. He lined everything up just so, sending it all off with dreams of the full ride. He crushed the deadline. No one had doubted. And it should be simple today, too. Complete the form, sign the declaration on the requisite line, I, Boy Cornelius McVeigh, accept the offer of entry to RMC, and send it back. Next, complete this school year, collect a high school diploma with honors, start training in July and classes in September, and sail through university towards a career in the Air Force. As a pilot, of course, he secured his private license through cadets to streamline that requirement, although his 6'2" frame will limit him to the larger, heavy-lift aircraft. Would limit him. If only. He looks out at the water. Lake Ontario is calm, a slate canvas under a cloudy, late-winter sky. He sits at the edge of a stone outcropping at its highest point, his pale, skinny legs dangling like an afterthought. Here, the QEW swings close to the shore, bent around the orchards and vineyards that once filled the ground between the Niagara escarpment and the lake. His rocks, he likes to think of the knuckle of exposed dolostone as his, are part of a forgotten length of shoreline, pinched between highway and lake, and fringed on both sides by low trees and brush. His favorite place. No one comes here. What do you think I should do? From her customary spot a few paces farther down the rocks, Charlie, too, faces the lake. Boy waits for her to speak again, but she remains silent, her expression as resolute as the stone itself. In life, even to her annoying brother 2 years her junior, she was the specter of preteen chattiness. In death, she often drapes herself in wise, patient silence. Boy is almost grateful. It's up to him, after all. One hand on the control stick, the other on the throttle. Still, he wonders what advice she might offer. Surely she'd supply more than the common-sense nuggets he'll get from everyone else when they find out. Work harder. Keep up the grades. Chin up. Etc. Well? No response. Just the same unchanging gaze out over the lake. The same defiant, folded arms. The same feet set shoulder-width apart, challenging. The same clothes she was wearing when she was killed 8 years ago. A cream sweater and hip-hugger jeans, both a size too large, as though she was hoping to fill them out someday. Hair in a perfect bun to impress the squadron officers and NCOs she never had a chance to meet. Their parents, Corny and Misty, had been shocked at Charlie's declaration to join the Air Cadets. "I want to do something different," she said. Misty said no, but Corny talked her into it, even offering to drive Charlie every week. "Fine," Misty said, "but you're responsible." They never made it to the first parade. Corny swerved and flipped the car in front of a Niagara-bound truck. Charlie died. He lived. Boy's phone thrums in his pocket. A text from Mark, a former squadron mate and his best friend, asking if the RMC letter has come through. Boy glances down at the envelope, noting the expensive weave of the heavyweight paper. Elegant, understated, woven through with a million expectations. He taps out a response. Nada. Maybe TMW. He lays the phone on the letter as a paperweight, moves his backpack behind him, and eases back into a recline against it. He feels the beginnings of a chill. He wakes up, raising himself to a sitting position and blinking away a restive, brief sleep. He grabs his phone to check the time, but the screen won't turn on. How long has he been out? 20 minutes? An hour? It seems darker. The clouds have thickened, the temperature has dipped, and the lake has become shadowed. He shivers, sudden, deep. Through the thick insulation of his coat, he feels the stubborn end of winter digging its aching fingers into his core. It's perfectly quiet. He can hear his muscles spasming against the chill, the quick clacking of his teeth, the rustling of his clothing, but not the waves, wind, or even QEW traffic. Can you hear that? It's like nothing at all. The RMC letter is still beside him, resting at an odd angle. Must have moved it in my sleep, he thinks, reaching for it. He stops. It's not the angle, but the position of the letter that looks so strange. It's half on, half off the rock, leaning on a short edge while the other end hangs suspended. He blinks and rubs his face, wondering if he's still sleeping, and that the absence of sound and the impossibly suspended envelope are part of a strange, precise dream. It bothers him that he might still be asleep. He knows what the feeling is. Leadership guilt, his first drill instructor called it. So wake up, cadet, Boy thinks. Wake the fuck up. Leaders are always the first up and the first to move. He stands, awkwardly jumping up and down a few times to get his blood moving. He warms up quickly. He stops and looks around. Nothing has changed. Nothing moves or makes a sound. Everything has stopped. The whitecaps on the waves have frozen themselves. Wave droplets flung into the air at the base of the rocks hang perfectly still and round, like glass marbles of 1,000 different sizes. There's no wind, even though it had been constant since he arrived. He senses the stillness of the cars on the highway. Their drivers stopped in mid-thought. He doesn't have to look up to know the dark ceiling of clouds has stopped its relentless scouring of the hidden sky. But why is he still moving? Why can he still speak and make sounds? What's happening? How hard his voice is against the stillness. Go, his mind says. Get out of here. He bends over and grabs his backpack and the letter, plucking it half from the air, stuffing the envelope into the pack and shrugging it onto his shoulders. Wrong. It's all wrong. The sound of feet on small stones drifts to him from beyond the rocks. A man appears, walking right past Charlie's ghost, and looking at the sky like he's expecting foul weather. An unremarkable presence, perhaps just beyond middle age, slightly built and of average height, with graying hair and deep shadows under his eyes. He wears chinos, a chambray shirt, and a beige jacket, all with razor creases and a starched manner, as though unwrapped and unpinned just moments ago, the collar especially with the triangular stiffness exclusive to new dress shirts. Itchy. My secret place might not be so secret after all, Boy thinks. The man sees him and stops. A feral look hardens his features and he tenses, his eyes moving left and right. An animal caught away from the safety of its den. Boy remembers an old saying about cornered animals being the most dangerous. What about lonely ones? The man's expression says, too, that he has been on his own for a long time. Yet his hands are clean, his nails trimmed, his hair combed and parted to one side, his face clean-shaven. Boy raises his hand slowly, in what he hopes is a disarming gesture, a wave just higher than waist level. The man's eyes widen and he steps back, bringing his hands to his mouth as though he could hold back the tiny choking sound he makes. In the stillness, these tiny actions, minuscule things, ring out like gunshots and thunder. They stand for a long moment without moving, just looking at each other. The man practically vibrates, his tension just contained enough to keep him from bounding back into the scrub like a deer.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
He's found his voice, a scratchy tremolo, rust on old pipes. I was just leaving, Boy says.
How did you find me?
I didn't. I just come here sometimes to... Boy stops himself, conscious of saying too much. To what? Think? Be alone? Masturbate? Why should he feel the need to put the strange man at ease? Boy could be asking him the same questions. Who's the more suspicious character in this scenario? He's just a teenager who slipped around an old bit of fencing at the dead end of an unused service road. There have to be dozens of possible reasons a middle-aged man would be stomping around dead ground, looking like an exhausted discount store mannequin, and no comfortable ones, all of them enough to make him want to leave. He looks the man up and down again, noticing the starkness of the man's new clothing against the dead vegetation. A change of clothes after hiding a fucking body, maybe. Boy glances past the man at Charlie, who has turned away from the lake to face them and has sensed his discomfort with characteristic precision. He is beginning to feel the first roots of panic. Cornered men, dangerous animals. The man sees the look and glances to the side. He sees nothing, of course, but is still trying to make sense of it all, and failing.
What are you looking at?
Boy flushes. How could he explain? Nothing. The man's eyes narrow.
You're moving. How are you moving?
I'm going to go.
And talking too. No one talks.
Oh my God, Boy thinks. He hears himself promising not to come back or tell anyone.
No, the man says. That's not what I mean. Let me.
He steps forward, hand extended. Boy turns to run, back towards the break in the fence and his bike, every movement too loud, the sound of his shoes against the rock beneath him, his clothing and backpack rustling, his heart. He doesn't see the ridge of stone that catches his foot, but he feels the sharpness of the one he hits his head against as he falls. A blink of sharp sound, strangely, impossibly above his eyes, a flash of white and black and quiet. Chapter 2. It's late now, almost full dark. The cold feels even colder. He's sprawled out on his side, awkward, his backpack still strapped to his shoulders. He sits up too quickly, the pain in his head pouring down his neck and into his body like molten metal in his bloodstream, churning over itself a dozen times before being pumped back to his head. There are bright flashes, almost too quick to perceive. Nausea. Yes, you're awake. Charlie is still on the rock, again facing the water. He can hear the highway, the waves, the wind through the leafless bushes and low trees. The man is gone. Everything has started up again. He holds his head in his hands and groans. Wait. Something is stuck to his forehead. He pulls out his phone and activates the selfie camera, squinting into the image of a white, self-adhesive bandage over his right eye. There are dark spots where blood has begun to seep through the weave, and smudges beside his eye where the blood was hastily wiped away. He presses against the bandage. Instant, stinging pain as well as a deeper ache, too, like broken bone. The sensation and the idea triggers another rush of nausea, and he manages to lean just enough to the side to avoid being splashed by his own vomit. Fuck, little brother, you're a mess.
Helpful, Charlie, thanks.
There's no bite to Boy's sarcasm, just ritual. Swearing might taste dirty to him, but he's used to how blue her speech can be. When she was alive, even at the tender age of 12, she could scorch the air, much to Corny and Misty's amusement, as though they could claim parental ownership of her expletives. They wondered where his foul streak was. He still favors composure and confidence rather than foulness, learning early that people listen better when you don't swear. She's not wrong, though. He is a mess, likely concussed. The pain and scalp wound are a concern, but the nausea and fuzziness around his vision's periphery are much more worrisome. He should get himself checked out.
Up you get, cadet.
The faint path he has worn between the rocks and the end of the fence is difficult to see in the gathering darkness. He stumbles along slowly, tense against the pain, but enjoying the warmth his pumping heart brings to his extremities. He tries to focus on each step. He'll worry later about what happened on the rock, he tells himself. But his mind keeps going back to the bandage on his forehead and the blood cleaned up on his face. The man stopped the bleeding and patched him up. If he is as dangerous as Boy and Charlie's imaginations make him out to be, changing his clothes after burying corpses, say, why would he do that? Boy pedals, Corny's old 10-speed wobbling along, its orange frame filtered under the sodium street lamps into a strange, sickish hue. He passes new subdivision after new subdivision, every house delineated by the same pressure-treated fencing against the road and uniform roof lines against the darkening sky. Lots of flat-screen TVs blinking in windows. Not a person in sight. Yet traffic along Barton Street is heavy, with hundreds of headlights zipping past and frequent stoplights soaring by like a bouncing, head-splitting cloud of fireflies. 6 years ago, as soon as Boyd turned 12, he made a long bike ride to East Hamilton, to the high school where 742, the Air Cadet Squadron Charlie had hoped to join, paraded. He locked up Corny's ancient orange Raleigh and walked right in. 2 years of grief, a hole inside him slowly filling with something dense and heavy, a pocket of fluid tucked away under his heart, but above his diaphragm, where it seemed to weigh down every breath. Hydraulic fluid, perhaps. Red, viscous. He missed his foul-mouthed sister, and had been thinking about the cadets, as well as the mystery of where Charlie got the idea, and how she convinced Sarah, her closest friend, to join up too. A few months after Charlie's cremation, he looked around her room. On her desk was a large, resealable bag marked "Personal Effects," the clear plastic hazy with dust. Inside, an empty purse and a jumble of things. A compact, lipstick, bobby pins, comb, small change, nickels, dimes, quarters, a cheap click pen from a random health service, signed enrollment forms. Beside the bag was a scattered pile of literature about the cadets and how to join. He forged the necessary parental signatures, biked back out to 742 the next week, and never looked back. No one questioned him, either at cadets or at home. Misty didn't question his disappearing every week for a few hours, the occasional training weekend away, the long absences for paid summer training. She didn't seem to notice that he never asked for money, complained about a part-time job, or brought any kids his age home to hang out. She covered her own grief with a calendar heavy with work and nights soaked in drink. Out there, she was a respected and driven realtor. At home, she drew the blinds and sipped her gin, missing most of what he was doing. Who he was becoming, too, which, these days, is feeling less and less defined. There are his grades, of course, but also the loss of the squadron. 18 years old, a forced resignation as of January 1st, exiting after almost 6 years. From the moment he made those nervous stumbles on his first parade night, to his earned billet as warrant officer first class, he knew all he wanted was to serve. Developed impeccable habits, hard routine, polished and shined always. And now, weeknights and weekends formerly full of drill and training and command, now his again. It's hard to switch off those old cadet ways. The urge to dive back into the manuals and regs and memorize, polish buttons, run a lint roller over his uniform blues. He'd found himself in front of his closet a couple of times, before remembering that everything was taken back by the squadron's quartermasters. They did let him keep his black drill boots, but there are only so many times you can spit-shine those when they don't get worn. They'd be disappointed in him. Trying to bike himself to the walk-in clinic after a head injury? Basic stuff, cadet. You're mission incapable right now. You can't fly if you can't think. Get help. Ask for and expect it. To be honest, he'd be disappointed in himself if he weren't in so much pain. Maybe you should stop and call someone. It's not far. His vision hasn't improved, nor has the pain in his head. How much easier this would be, he thinks, if everything were still stopped. A fresh cascade of nausea forces him to squeeze the brakes and skid to a halt. He drops his feet to the ground and moans. There's nothing left in his stomach to bring up, and he can't imagine dealing with another bout of dry heaving. He again recalls his extremely short contact list, reassuring himself that yes, he does indeed have to do this on his own. Mark? No car. Misty or Nick? Ha! If they're home, they're already high or drunk or both. And that's it. How about an ambulance? He thinks, not a bad idea if a little late, but... No, he says, his teeth gritted. Who calls an ambulance for himself? Your logic is stupid. Maybe. No maybe about it. You're being a fucking idiot. A few moments later, he is again making his unsteady way towards the storefront walk-in clinic at Barton and Gray. A light snow has begun to fall, dusting the sidewalk. His progress looks like the tracks made by two drunk snakes, a never-seen suburban subspecies. Charlie keeps pace just behind, making no tracks in the snow. She appeared the winter after the accident. About the same time, Corny pled guilty to all charges and was sent to Millhaven. Boy had become even more withdrawn, so in came the specialists. He admitted to the grief counselor, a petite woman who wore only gray and tied her hair back so tightly it seemed to stretch her face, that he couldn't keep himself from staring at Charlie. The counselor said, "Don't look right at her then if it makes you feel sad." He said, "But she talks to me too and asks me lots of questions." The counselor asked if he ever responded. "Sure," he said. "She is my sister." The counselor nodded. "Well, try not to talk to her in public, at least out loud. She's not really there, and people might get the wrong idea." In her office, he could talk freely. Outside, no. Private grief was the main theme in his recovery, despite all the systems activating themselves after Charlie's death. So much effort to help him forget his sadness, as though grieving openly, deeply, would keep him from healing. He even overheard Misty telling someone on the phone that a 10-year-old's grief isn't real. "It's just loss," she said. "A small hole that'll heal quickly at his age." For him, though, holes just got bigger. Maybe you just get better at building around them. When he finally arrives, he leans Corny's bike against the frosted main window. Its lock is gone, dropped somewhere between the rocks and here. He hopes he can keep an eye on it from the waiting room. An old bike, sure, but well cared for, and it would be a shame to have it stolen. Inside the house, Corny and Misty used to carry each other's drug and booze habits. In the garage, Corny repaired and cared for mechanical things as precisely as a jeweler. When he was sober enough, he'd teach Boy about gears and wiring and the intricacies of machines. Boy maintains the bike the way Corny taught him, with good oil and grease, reliable and clean tools, and an infinite supply of care. The nurse behind the counter window takes his health card and passes over a battered clipboard without taking her eyes from her phone. The window, covered in peeling translucent MacTac, is only half open, so she has to angle the board at 45 degrees to get it through. He can only see half of her face, which is pale and thin. Finally, she turns off her phone and lowers it to the counter, a secret smile fading along with the screen's dying glow. She doesn't even glance at the bloody bandage on his forehead. "First time?" "Yes. Fill in both sides, bring it back. Waiting room's behind you. Someone'll call you in." He tucks the clipboard under his arm and sinks into a padded waiting chair. He squints at the impossibly small text, his head protesting the scrutiny. Standard questionnaire, a quick dash through his medical history. He's happy to lie about the family questions, but pauses at one. "Have you ever—" The cheap ballpoint, tethered to the clipboard by a filthy string, hovers over the boxes. No. Yes. If yes, provide details. During winter break last December, 742 organized an exchange with the cadet squadron in Washington, D.C. 4 days, a long drive, and a bus full of hopped-up cadets heading south to march in formation with their American counterparts. Mark called it the W01 McVeigh Farewell Tour, and the names.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?